This is a series on how to conduct research for group projects in Zotero, a free open source citation and file management platform. In addition to being an indispensable tool for creating citations and bibliographies, Zotero's group library feature allows for the collaborative sharing of resources. This also makes Zotero a great classroom tool, whether for group projects or smaller assignments, like the primary source scavenger hunts I've designed for my history methods seminars. This tutorial demonstrates how to add sources into Zotero, organize and annotate them, then use Zotero to format citations in a bibliography. Even if you don't plan to use group libraries, this will still be a useful introduction. If you're totally new to group libraries, check out the first video in this series, which gives a 3-minute introduction to setting up a group library and inviting in collaborators. To make the most of Zotero, I recommend that you install 3 apps and add-ons. The first is Zotero's standalone app. Although you can use Zotero through the Zotero website, the app is preferable, not simply for its interface, but also for the PDF annotation capabilities, which we'll be using later on. The second thing to install, also from the Zotero website, is the Zotero browser plugin. This will allow you to add sources to your library. Finally, I recommend using Zotfile, which extends Zotero's capabilities to file management. In other words, it will help rename the doc files we download. You download Zotfile at zotfile.com and install it in the add-ons option in Zotero's tools menu. Let's begin. In the previous video in this series, I sent myself an invitation to join a group library. I didn't have a Zotero account, so I've created one and accepted the invitation to join the library. I then log into the Zotero app with this account. The group library appears left below my personal library, and I log on through the Preferences option. For this tutorial, I'll locate several types of sources from high-quality repositories, which I'll add to the group library, tag, annotate, format, and move to my personal library. Let's say I'm working on a group project on immigrant communities in San Francisco. The project would need to be more specific than that, but I'll keep the topic broad for now in order to highlight a diverse array of sources. The first place I'll start is JSTOR, which I've logged into using my university account. I'll enter San Francisco and immigrants in quotation marks, which will only turn up results with those exact terms. We'll need to keep refining our search terms as we go. This first page of results has a lot of recent student newspapers from the University of San Francisco, which is not what I'm looking for at the moment, but is a cool source base. I always recommend keeping a research diary, so I'll make a note of that. I need to cite scholarly publications for this project, so I'll limit my search to journals by clicking the button at left. You'll see that I've also specified content I can access rather than everything. Now, this search yields a bunch more primary historical sources. Let's scroll down and pick this recent journal article. Here's where we use the Zotero plugin. As we'll see as we keep going, the icon will change based on the type of source, but functionally it's all the same at this stage. We click it, and Zotero saves all the bibliographic metadata for this article. It's saving to the folder I have selected in the app, which right now is our group library. So let's jump back to the Zotero app. JSTOR plays nicely with Zotero, so we have clean, complete metadata here. There's nothing we need to change with the formatting or add. And if we expand the Zotero item, we see that Zotero has also downloaded a copy of the PDF, which will be accessible in the cloud to me and other members of this group library. We can use Zotero's PDF viewer to take notes and otherwise annotate PDFs, but before we do that, let's look at how different people can contribute to the group library. I'm cutting in here with a screen recording from my iPad. I find that doing digital resources is easiest on my laptop, but say a new idea for sources occurs to me and all I have in front of me is my iPad or iPhone. Zotero recently added an app for iOS, so as much as we just did in the laptop browser, I can save this item to the group library, which I do up here in the Share menu. Click Zotero. It'll load collections, and I've already selected the project folder here. So I'll just go ahead and hit Save Up. If I now look at the group library back on my laptop, we can see that this new item has synced. However, there are 2 things to be aware of here. First, Zotero doesn't specify who has added items to a group library. This makes it important to add a note or a tag for each contribution, and I can do that up top here on the right-hand toolbar. Tagging who made a contribution is particularly important if you're using Zotero for a class assignment. I use group libraries for a primary source scavenger hunt in which students are tasked with finding historical sources on a given topic in order to avoid every student simply adding the first hit to come up in JSTOR. Once a source has been added to the library, it's off limits to everyone else in the class. Without students tagging their contributions, it's difficult to track who's put in what. The second thing you may notice about this item that I added from my iPad is that it didn't download the PDF with it. This is something you come across occasionally, but fortunately it's very easy to fix from the laptop. I simply right-click on the item and choose Find Available PDF. Because this source has good metadata attached with it, Zotero is able to find the PDF and attach it. Let's now delve into annotating a source with Zotero. Double-clicking on the PDF opens a new tab. And you'll note several tools up here at the top right. We can highlight text or add a note. I'll go ahead and do that. I'll select a passage that's looks good for my project. Then I'll choose the color yellow. Also click on this viewer bar at left so I can see what I've been annotating. Go ahead and add a note. One thing I really like here is that every note and annotation includes the name of the user who added the annotation, which is great for collaboration. And one other feature I really like here is the ability to toggle between different colors of annotations. This is a best practice I can't emphasize highly enough. Come up with a consistent system for color coding different types of annotations. In my schema, yellow is text I want to take notes on, while red indicates a source I want to track down as I continue the research process. Let me then scroll down to the bottom of the document and highlight a few sources in red. And you'll notice the colored squares that have appeared yellow and red at the bottom left. By clicking on one of these, I can select only one kind of annotation, which is nice at the end of reading an article because I can simply copy all these potential sources to paste into another document without having to sort later between highlighted notes and highlighted sources. Zotero has another great feature related to notes. If I go back to the group library, then right-click on the PDF that I was just reading, I can select Add Notes from Annotations. All of my highlights now populate a notes file that Zotero just generated. Now this is going to be accessible to everyone in the group library. You could also then paste these notes easily into another file for organizing, outlining, and writing. One other feature I like about the PDF reader with the annotations that it just generated, you can see that if I click on the note, it jumps me to the page where the annotation is located, so I don't have to scroll around going and looking for things. I'll also go ahead and add a tag specifying that I have finished this reading. This is another good best practice to follow. I'll also go ahead and show you what happens if a couple group members add the same file twice to a group library. So I've gone ahead and just added that same one we were just looking at. If I click under my group library on duplicate items, it shows me the duplicates and I can select the one that I want to use, and that goes ahead, collapses them into one single item. This is really great for just keeping a library tidy so my group members and I don't get lost. I'll move on now to tackle a different kind of primary source, namely historical newspapers. One great research for using newspapers online is Chronicling America, which is a free initiative of the Library of Congress. I'll go ahead and enter in slightly different search terms, yet still ones that are related to my general topic. I'll put San Francisco and Chinatown, again in quotation marks. I'll also select newspapers only from California for the years 1890 to 1920. I'll go ahead and click on one of the pages from the search results. You'll see that the Zotero icon has changed to a newspaper. So I'll go ahead and click to add the item to my library. Now when I go back to the full search results, you'll note the Zotero icon has turned from a newspaper into a folder. When I click the folder, it will present me with every one of the sources on this page, which is a great way to batch import sources into your library. I'll go ahead and pick a couple here. What's nice about this feature is that it also shows up in something like JSTOR. So again, if we go back to our original JSTOR search, and here are all the search results, I could click the folder up top and once more select several of them, but I won't go through all of that right now. Let's instead go back into Zotero and see those results that just came in. This is an instance where the metadata isn't as clean as I might like it. So for instance, we don't have a title for just one article. It's instead the entire page that I downloaded. This is because of the way the newspaper was digitized. We also know the author of this article isn't the National Endowment for the Humanities, which is the institute that sponsored the digitization. And what I'll do instead is open up, I'll use this PDF. Now if I click on the right-hand side, it'll open up the item description, so I don't have to toggle back and forth. And I will go ahead and transcribe the title of the article, this headline here, which is what I want to use for my project. All my other fields are good. I'll delete the author, go back to my project folder. And here's where Zotfile is, again, a great option. So if I right-click and select Rename and Move, it'll rename the PDF based on the metadata that I've entered into the Zotero item. You'll see that the article starts with the year 1901. In the Zotfile preferences, which are found in Zotero, I can change that. Just in general, using Zotfile to change file titles is a great time saver for keeping up on the organization and labeling of our document. I want to show you one other circumstance where we need to clean up metadata like this. And this happens very often with reports and PDFs that aren't from a repository like JSTOR, but might instead be from a government agency or an NGO. So take a look for papers on the problem, recent papers on the problem of homelessness in San Francisco. And I found this report, and I'll go ahead and click on the PDF logo in the browser to add it to Zotero. As you can see, this file doesn't have good metadata. There's no metadata for Zotero to draw on to create what's called a parent item. And even if I go in to retrieve metadata for PDF, it doesn't get anything. So I'm going to have to create a new parent item. There's no DOI number, so I'll select manual entry. I'll also change the kind of item from website, which is the default, to report. I'll go back to the PDF, copy the title of the report, paste it into the Zotero item. And if you right-click the title field, there's a really great hack. You can change the title to title case or sentence case. And I'll do title case here. I'll continue to just clean up the title, put in that colon. I want clean citation data for my footnotes later on. I'll also go ahead and enter the author, of this report, which is ASR. In terms of the date, it's not obviously in the first pages of the PDF, but I see it up here in the metadata and in the URL for the report. So it's August of 2022. I'll go ahead and add that to my Zotero entry as well. I'll control-click, do Zotfile manage attachments, rename and move, and I have a nicely renamed PDF. Let's say you've already imported some sources into your Zotero personal library. It's pretty easy to bring them over to your group library. So as an example, go ahead and select this item in my personal library, which as you can see has a PDF and a note attached to it. I simply drag it into my group library. I'll also click to confirm that the notes file and the PDF came along with it. However, dragging an item from your personal library to a group library won't bring the PDF if you've configured your personal Zotero to download to a cloud-enabled folder, which is a process I highly recommend, in part because storage on Zotero is limited. I cover the setup of this in another tutorial video. By contrast, files in my group library are currently configured to save to my hard drive, though they will still sync to my other devices in group library through my Zotero account. Because these PDFs are being saved locally, I can drag that file from my group library to my personal library without any difficulty. And as you can see, the process works very easily the other way. If I grab this item from my group library, just drag it into my personal library, it's there with the PDF. We're reaching the end of our project, so it is time to do the final write-up, and here Zotero can be a great tool for formatting bibliographies. So one option we have, if we want to do a very quick list of sources, is to select the sources we want to create a bibliography for. We right-click and select Create Bibliography from Items, which is down here. For this assignment, we want APA 7th edition, and you'll see down below options I have to output mode as a bibliography and copy it to my clipboard. I have a Google Doc here, and I will just paste in what I just copied. Very easy. I have my formatted bibliography right there, although I might want to single space it, which I won't do, but I will add line breaks between the entries. I'll go ahead and delete that and show you now how to do citations with Zotero. And this works for both Word and Google Docs. So let's go ahead and type in a couple of random sentences. Zotero's already installed a plugin with Google Docs, so you'll note a Zotero menu up top. I'll go up there, select Add Edit Citation. I might have to specify which Google account I want to use this with. And again, I want APA. Go ahead and click OK on that. Helpful note, because this is the first time I've used Zotero on this laptop. I'll go ahead and type in the article that I want to use. And if I click on it, I can also add the page number. And there's my APA citation. Now I'll want to move the period to the outside of it. More of a Chicago guy, so got a little mixed up there. Let me add a third sentence here as well. Once again, go up to add a citation. All right, go ahead, pick this Moran piece and add a range of page numbers. And I can also create a bibliography. This is another way to do it. From the Zotero menu, select Create Bibliography. And it just generates that from the sources that I've cited. And this would work just as well if I had even 20 or 30 sources. Moreover, if I make any changes to the original Zotero entries, like changing the author name or updating the URL, so long as this Google Doc is linked to Zotero, the citations will update automatically. So there you have it. We've selected some sources, entered them into Zotero, cleaned them up a little bit, added annotations with our collaborators, and then generated citations in a bibliography for the final write-up. Thanks for watching this ResearchCraft tutorial. If you're interested in extending Zotero with a cloud-enabled folder or automatically renaming your existing PDFs using Zotero and Zotfile, check out other episodes on this channel. Please subscribe for more tutorials, as well as interviews on doing historical and other qualitative research. ResearchCraft is on Twitter at research_craft. You can find me at Karl.